Hello, happy Wednesday, folks. Welcome, welcome. Let us know as you're jumping on here where you're coming from. Have you watched us before? Are you new? Have you ever caught an episode? Let us know. Bring it on. Hey, Carrie Ann. She's coming. There she
Hello.
is. Hi there.
I kind of got a glimpse of the heading and you said, oh, just kidding. It's not the 10th week. But
Yep.
this is the 10th episode for real this time.
I mean, now you can't trust us. You'll never know.
This is episode whatever we say it is. So
You don't know. You're not counting.
hop on board. I also saw when I was scanning your page that someone posted about rattlesnake bites, and that is nasty.
I did see that, and I think it's rude to bring that kind of stuff to my page.
It's rude to bring real life situations.
My kids were in the woods. I have Tori Hine is living here, and her kids are here. They're in the woods playing at their fort, and then they all come running out like crazy out of the woods, and what they describe is they saw a snake with front legs only.
What is that, a lizard?
It doesn't have back legs. I asked many times, did it have back legs? No. And all of the kids were in agreement that it was snake-headed, snake-bodied, with front legs, running very fast.
Oh, God.
Gage said it was spotted, but he was the only one that could confirm spots. But I couldn't tell. They said it either ran up a tree or under a tree, so these would be different types of creatures, but they agree it's half lizard, half snake. So
it'd be hard to climb up anything with two legs. Ew, you know.
Although snakes can climb, man. Like if you've ever seen a snake in like a glass thing, I don't even know how snakes are like extraterrestrial because they can do things that
they're aliens.
Legless creatures. I think they are. I think they have powers we know not of because how do you climb with no legs? And I don't even understand how they can.
You have to be from another planet.
I think that's the only explanation.
You have to be from another planet. Yep, that
it's for sure.
To be it.
So this is completely irrelevant to the conversation today, but thanks for coming along with us as we catch up.
Yes. We're very excited to have you guys jumping on today. I'm super stoked to talk about this topic today at hand. But if you don't know where you are or you're hopping on because you love us, thank you for hopping on. And this is What Do We Know with Wen and Wit. I'm the wit part. She's the Wen part. We hope to bring perspective, inspiration, and education about some hot topics and try and meet somewhere in the middle. Like I said, my name is Whitney. I'm the son to Dylan. I have a son named Dylan. I'm a mom to Dylan. And a mom to my fur baby Rizzo. And I'm a wife and a small business owner. I live in Northern California.
I'm asking, Amy says that she said the word skink.
Oh.
And I'm wondering, Amy, if you could clarify if that is a creature you're trying to identify, because I've never heard, or maybe you're just calling me a name. I'm not sure.
I mean, in high school, Wendy was a skink, but
I was a skink. So
a two-legged extraterrestrial.
Anyway. I'm going to Wikipedia that because, yes. So my name's Wendy. I'm the Wendy part. And I'm also a mom. I have 3 kids. I'm a wife. I'm a business owner, a blogger, author, speaker, and I live in Middle Tennessee, where I just got an alert that lightning has struck within 4 miles of my home.
Ooh.
However, it's not raining and it's sunny. So that's weird.
You never know,
Summer
though.
storms.
Weather comes in quick.
You just never know. We shall see how that goes. Anyway,
so what are we talking about today?
We're talking about failure. Eventually, we'll talk about what we're talking about, which today is failure, which is actually like a loaded. She says, "Yes, that's what it is." Okay, I'm gonna have to Google a skink. Maybe we'll
Do
have
skinks
to see.
have spots?
That's crazy. Do skink? Yeah, are they spotted skinks? Can you be a non-spotted skink? Confirmation on just 2 legs. Can we get that confirmation? Okay, so we're talking about failure, and specifically why we fear it, why it's actually important in our lives, and how we can overcome our fear. Not just overcome our fear of failure, but thrive in failure, thrive in failing. And I actually feel like a slight expert in this category only because I have a credential that I am a co-author for the book Success Through Failing. So I'm slightly credentialed in this topic. I don't mean to brag, just saying.
Well, and it's kind of the only way to be successful is to fail. Like, you have to find out to be successful. And that includes falling flat on your face a lot, right? So I came across this quote that I loved about failure, and it was by Henry Ford. So I'm sure you've heard of Henry Ford, but it says, failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently. And I felt like that was such, hi Erica. I felt like that was such an accurate depiction of, like, failure is not the end. It's just the beginning of continuing moving forward towards your goals, right?
Totally.
So
I think it's Ben
why are we
Franklin
afraid to fail?
Well, before that, I think it's Ben Franklin who said, I haven't found 1,000 ways. I haven't failed 1,000 times. I've found 1,000 ways that it doesn't work. Right? Which would mean I'm not giving up. Right. So yeah, let's go into why are we afraid to fail? Why are we afraid to fail? Audience participation. Yeah. Why are you afraid of failure? I hear this all the time, and to me, failure, gosh, I almost wish we had a definition here, Whit. You really failed me on that. You failed me on giving me a definition for failure. Because to me, failure is like this like abstract concept even sometimes, right? Like it's a perspective, let's say. Because someone might say, I've failed at this, and somebody else might be like, no, you haven't. You've just blah, blah, blah. Like you've just like hit an obstacle or whatever. You've hit a setback. It's all perspective. Okay, so Erica says judgment from others. Absolutely. So if you're willing, Erica, or anyone else who wants to weigh in on that, specifically judgment of what, right? Because again, that's like, okay, oftentimes our fear, and I think we did a thing about fear. If we didn't, we should. But
I'm not sure.
Fear is a liar, right? That's the acronym for fear. Fear. Nope, that's not. False evidence. I've never been one for spelling.
Public speaker, Wendy. She also wrote a book, if you didn't hear.
I'm afraid of failing on this thing. False evidence appearing real. That's the acronym. Yes. Which is also to say fear is a liar, right? And so we have, I've totally lost my train of thought now that it makes us feel less than. Okay, so Carrie Ann says, failure makes us feel less. Okay, less Absolutely. Than what? Less than somebody else, less than our best. Again, these are all like, fear just gives us these really strange, valid. I'm not trying to say that what you guys are not saying is valid. It's totally valid. And I think this is an important conversation just about fear in general, but it gives us this like weird skewed feeling of like, yeah, when you say it makes us feel less
inadequacy.
What? Inadequate. But compared to what? Us yesterday?
Right.
Or our neighbor? Or, again, that's comparison, which we should talk about comparison. See, all these ideas are coming up out of my head here.
Yeah. When I looked it up.
Oh,
I have a definition for you.
Let's hear it. Let's get official.
Failure is the state or condition of not meeting a desirable or intended objective and may be viewed as the opposite of success.
Fascinating. Okay, I like that actually because it indicates it's totally subjective. And one of my favorite things to say is don't put a period where God intended a comma, right? Like don't end the story. Because even that is like, okay, so you did not reach an objective. Does that mean you died the next day and you can no longer try to achieve said objective?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So if anything, if we're going to go worst case scenario about our fear of failure, it's momentary. It's not an end point, if that makes sense. Or at least it doesn't have to be. I think that's the big thing. And this is what I love about failure is it's absolutely within our control, right?
Well,
so, okay.
Wouldn't you agree that failure is like mostly, if I were to bulk in like what defines failure, it's so ego driven. It really is the root of how you want to be perceived by other people. Well, if you fail, what will people think? What will people say? How will how will anyone think of me as someone who's successful if I failed? But like, if you don't quit and you keep moving forward, people will shut their mouths, right? They'll watch.
So true. So true. Erin is saying she feels like setbacks, which it can feel like a setback, effort that didn't produce expected results turning into, is this worth my time? Which is totally fair, right? It's a place of assessment. And I think disappointment, if I could tie that word into what you just said, it's a feeling of disappointment in yourself or just it brings about questions, right? And we want to feel really motivated and like driven. And when you're not hitting targets on, goals that you said, it can make you feel disappointed. It can make you doubt. It can make you question. So it's not just fear. There's other things that can make you doubt and question and wonder if you're on the right path and all of those things. Those are totally obstacles to have to get over for sure.
Yeah. And the mind is such a nasty place. Like it can be such a nasty place when you're telling yourself repeatedly that you can't do it, or look what happened last time, and you write your own story. I think we talked about that before and also today, but the negative self-talk can be just completely overwhelming and more than what other people would say to you or about you, or even they're not thinking about you as much as you're thinking about yourself. We talked about that too. It's about what you're telling yourself, right?
So if I can ask the audience here, would you say, just cast a vote, is it more about what other people will think? Because I think that's a piece of it, but I think, this is my guess, but I want you to weigh in because maybe I'm wrong. Is it more about what we think? Because you're right, Whit, like most people don't think about us as much as we think about us. So I'm feeling like it's more self-talk than even our concern for what other people will think. Because most of the times our goals are pretty private. Most people don't know exactly what we're trying to achieve. You know what I mean? So a failure wouldn't necessarily be most people wouldn't even be aware of it.
Yeah, you don't broadcast it usually. Right. Yeah, okay, it's more about what I think.
I agree. So I know this failure also causes you to feel uncomfortable or even unsafe in your, like we talked about, makes you question and doubt, which makes you unsure. And the unknown can be incredibly scary. And actually, I was listening to something, a book about entrepreneurship the other day, and they were saying that entrepreneurship isn't so much about risk of failure. It's about risk of unknown, right? Like that's really almost as powerful as failure, but we lump it in with failure. But it's a separate thing. Not being sure if I'm going to make it or not feels like failure, and we might lump it into failure, but it's not. It's separate. It's. Do you know what I'm saying? But it gives you the same weight.
And the reality is that failure is inevitable, right? That's kind of the next thing that we wanted to talk about. That no matter what you're doing in your life, unless you're living a life that is just completely safe and not worth living, where there is no danger and it is just the same boring, mundane tasks every day. We were talking about this, that, every day we fail in certain ways, right? As a wife, you were saying as a Christian,
100 times. 100 times a day.
It's just, we are imperfect people. So, we're trying to make a difference. That means we're going to fail, right?
Even if you're not trying, like you cannot avoid it because, I mean, let's be honest. If you are a parent, you have not done the right thing at least one time. Like easily every day, I think back and go, man, I could have handled that better. Or I yelled at my kids because I was stressed. It really wasn't about them. That's a mini failure to me as a mom, or as a wife when I'm irritated at my husband because I'm stressed, has nothing to do with him. Those are many failures. You cannot avoid it. It's 100% inevitable, but it's those moments of reflection where, like you said at the quote at the beginning, let me say it again, failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently. So if you loop in reflection on failure, which is hindsight, you're going to be able to only learn from failure. I mean, in those two examples, when I yell at my kids, like after it's all said and done, I'm calm or whatever, I look back and I go, man, how could I have handled that differently? Or next time, you know, my 3-year-old is 3. I'm going to do XYZ, you know, like you can only learn from those moments. Like Ben Franklin says, I haven't failed 1,000 times. I found 1,000 times this won't work. It's a learning process to hit roadblocks, I mean, if we have the expectation that we're going to walk through everything we do in our life and hit no obstacles, I mean, that's, you really, when you look at it like that, when you say that, it's like, well, of course not.
Completely unrealistic. Yeah.
Totally unrealistic. So we've got to fail. It's part of it. I think a lot of it has to do, I don't mean to be dominating this a little bit here, but the negative stories that we tell ourselves, we skipped over that a little bit, but it's not, I mentioned this in another episode, but it's never the event. If you can come along with me on this, it's never the event. It's the meaning we assign that event. And I've read this in different ways in multiple different books that I've read over the years, but like I use the example with our parenting, you know, like we both have the same dad and that dad died, and that has different meaning to you and to me. So it's not the event, it's the meaning we assign to the event, right? So it's not the actual failure that has anything to do with anything. It's the meaning you assign that failure. And again, it's when you put a period there that it truly is the end of the story, but you don't have to do that, right? Or it's when you say, you know what, that was just like, I'm not going to do that again. You put a comma and you go on. Then it's a learning experience. It's not a failure at all, right? It's totally the story you attach to it that changes the whole thing. And I'm all about perspective. That's a massive perspective shift. So go ahead, Whit.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, that's, we were just talking about the negative stories and negative self-talk. And it's just, if we could switch our perspective on it and just make it not an end all, like you said, to make it not a period, that we can realize it's important to fail, that it's part of life, that there is no possible way that you're going to go through life without failure. You can learn, grow, expand your perspective from failures. You know, there's so much to be learned from failures that you won't get from any other experience that you have in your life, right?
Totally. I think also failure, or I should say fear of failure, the reality of fearing failure is that it's a self-fulfilling thing. Because if you fear failure and therefore take no action, guess what happens? What are we afraid of? We're afraid of not advancing, not getting better, not moving forward, not hitting the goal. So what happens when we do nothing? All those things are achieved.
Right. Yeah.
So fear of failure in and of itself is a self-fulfilling prophecy, where that's why I'm like, dude, failure is it's a concept that is so deceptive to our self-talk. It's this like, it's just a concept. It's just a perspective. It's not even an actual, like, even the definition of failure is totally subjective, right? It's like, and yet we give it so much weight, and in the weight that we give it, it is self-fulfilling. How funny is that? Here we are trying to avoid failure, and in the avoidance of failure, we're failing. Blows my mind.
That was actually really, really impactful that you just said that, because no, you're right, but I've never thought of it in those terms and in that way. But like, so much of what we're preventing and protecting ourselves from is actually hindering our potential. And I've never really thought of it that way, but you know, staying in our comfort zone, staying where it's safe, there's nothing good that happens there. Like it's literally the safest way to not grow, to have the most boring, uneventful, mundane life. And you talked about the dash. I don't think you've talked
life. Go ahead. I just was adding.
You cut out a little bit.
It gives you a fear-filled life. No faith. You have a delay too, but it's okay.
Oh, well, don't blame it all on me. Okay. You've talked before in other trainings, not on these lives, but about the dash that, you know, in between on your tombstone, you have the year you were born and the year that you die. And then in between is the dash. And that's That's your time to make an impact, to live your life, to do those things that make a difference. And if you stay in your comfort zone, like, why even have the dash?
Right. 100%. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's so, there's so much weight on that topic of just the dash of what we do with our time here. Cause we don't know, you know, we all, I think it's Buddha who says the trouble is we think we have time. And I know we've talked about that too with grief. And I think we've talked about that, but that quote drives me every day of my life, because I have seen people have unexpected ends to their life at young ages, and I'm not guaranteed shit. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it on live. I'm not guaranteed a thing, right? Like, are waiting, and I hear it every single day. I want to get out of my job. You know, whatever it is, I want to get out of this debt. I want to blah, 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 but I'm afraid of failing. And therefore I'm going to stay where I'm at and stay in my job and stay in my debt. You know, it's like such a clear parallel that, like, if you give power to that fear, it's self-fulfilling. Like, maybe it's fear that's self-fulfilling and not actually failure. I think they're linked.
They're heavily linked, for sure.
What you fear if you do nothing happens. Maybe not. It's not fear, because if you're afraid of your house burning down and you do nothing, your house probably won't burn down. So it's not fear. It's definitely failure. Failure is the.
But if you fail to take care of your house when it's burning down, then yeah, that definitely will not work out well for you. It's
definitely going to burn down, for sure.
We're really good on the metaphors today.
I have said acronym. Fear is a liar. That's my favorite. That's how you spell fear, in case you're wondering how to spell fear. It's fear is a liar. Okay.
It's file.
How do we overcome this? It's the English language where you could well be that. So how do we overcome this, right? You can shift your perspective and just this is a question you could ask yourself. Is this really a failure, or is this just a learning opportunity? Is this just an obstacle? Because you get to choose. You get to choose if you continue on that path or if you quit, right? And it's okay if you choose to quit, but that still doesn't have to be a sign of failure. Because quitting and failing, different things, different reasons. Do you know, like, you would have different reasons to quit than maybe like chalk it up as a failure. But a lot of times people assign failure to things that are not failures at all. So you can choose to keep going and have this be a learning experience. You can choose that perspective shift, and you can also choose what story you assign to that event, so that you're not moving forward.
You can choose to embrace failure too, knowing that it's part of the journey, knowing that, you know, the more failures that you have, the closer you are to reaching your potential, you know? So that's a really good way to look at it. And we talk about this all the time. Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Do it anyway.
You know
unfortunately,
that fear,
there's no way around it.
Yeah.
You know?
And
you cannot jump over it. You have to go through it. Yeah, sorry.
No. And make no mistake, as we're talking about failure, it sucks. It does feel
totally
not good. It is not something that, like, we have mastered, you know, in any sense of the word. I still get discouraged also, but the good thing about knowing failure is inevitable is that you can recognize that it's a temporary setback and not something that's going to ultimately end your journey, right? So there's power in knowing failure happens, right?
I love that. And embrace it. Make a decision that you're going to embrace it. Make a decision that, I mean, you cannot jump over it. Like, tell me how to get success in anything that you're going to pursue. How do you become successful without obstacles? Like, there is none. There is none way. There is none way.
That's a quote from Wendy.
I'm very smart.
It's very powerful.
Oh, goodness gracious. I also love the perspective of hindsight. So that's the kind of the last one, and then Whit's going to wrap us up. But looking back at the times you failed. So I know I'm 35. If I look back at my life, I can key in on some critical times where in that moment when I was walking through it, biggest failure. Like I just felt like a failure.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was crashing down, like obstacles, blah, like least favorite times. But now that I'm looking back on it, I can look at those same exact times and go, that was where everything changed for me. That was when I had a massive shift, right? Like I had a really terrible failed relationship that was after a series of failed relationships. And I'm not just talking about like, oh, we broke up. I'm talking about like terribly failure relationship stories. I'm speaking super well today. And I did mention I was a speaker in my bio, so that's fun.
Uh-huh.
And now I can look back and say, if I did not walk through all those, not if I didn't avoid them, if I had avoided them, it would be a totally different story. But because I walked through them, hurt the hurts, felt the feels, feared the fears, I can say that's exactly why I pivoted and found the husband that I have now, who is amazing, right? Like I really feel looking back, if I hadn't have walked through those failures, I wouldn't have learned, I wouldn't have at all been in the relationship I'm in now, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think hindsight, you can look back and really recognize the power of failure. So what's going to bring us home with some famous failures?
I think we have
I love those.
I think we have a troll here on this page. You see these comments?
Nice armpits. Thank you. Thank you.
And then nice sweaty armpits. Yours both armpits.
Oh, well, that's what happens when you make public videos.
Yeah. It must mean that they think they'll get their message out about sweaty armpits.
About deodorant? Are you marketing deodorant?
Well, you're failing. But keep going. Keep trying. Other live videos,
look,
maybe.
We're judging him. Poor guy. He's probably trying. And like, here we are fulfilling all his fears of people judging him.
Well, don't talk about my sweaty armpits, you know?
I know. I am sweaty. It's hot.
Anyway, some famous failures so we could wrap this up. I'm sure you've heard of them, but I just thought they were encouraging for people because, you know, they didn't let that failure be the end of their story. So J.K. Rowling, I'm sure you guys have heard of Harry Potter, right? I think they're Wendy's favorite books.
Totally, 100%.
Harry Potter was rejected 12 times. And then there
I think it was more than that.
Well, I looked at online. Her pitch for Harry Potter was rejected 12 times. But I think the publishing of her books was rejected numerous more times.
Right.
And she was homeless. You know, she had really no other avenues to go on. But she knew that there was hope in this. And she wrote them anyway. And now she is a incredibly wealthy and well-respected author. Steve Jobs, again, maybe you've heard of him. He was fired from his first company, Macintosh. So he went on to create Apple.
Which crushed
maybe
Macintosh.
Yeah, maybe you've heard of Apple. Maybe you have an iPhone like everyone else on the planet. Apple today is a $2 billion company with 400 employees. So that's pretty impressive. Nobody's saying Steve Jobs is a failure, right?
It's more than that even.
Well,
I think these numbers are wrong. I think it's more, and I think the employees are more. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, you get the idea of
totally.
He's a very prestigious man.
So true.
Bill Gates was a Harvard dropout. His first company was considered an epic failure. I don't know what that means either. Yeah, they like put that in quotes. Like multiple people considered his first business an epic failure. But he created Microsoft and became the youngest self-made billionaire ever in the world.
That's cool.
And then I'll just wrap up with Michael Jordan, arguably one of the best players ever in the NBA, right? He's a basketball legend. Yet his coaches thought that he would never be anything because he didn't reach the minimum height requirement. So something so superficial could have kept him from even trying, right?
If he cared about what people thought.
Exactly. But his quote that I really love is, I've missed more than 1,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed.
Amen.
And I thought that was really cool.
That's a perfect way to end it. I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed. I'm going to put that on my mirror.
Yep. So
I love that.
Anyway, you are just a screen for me right now. Oh, there you are. You showed up again.
Hi.
You're kind of frozen. I don't know.
Well, good thing we're wrapping it up.
Yep. So I will just go ahead and wrap it up. Hopefully I'm not frozen. But, as we always say, there are things we know. Wendy is allegedly an expert, but doesn't know about skinks. So hopefully she will after this. I'm not sure if skinks are dangerous, but I hope they're not.
I hope they're not in my woods.
But we are learning more. And we learn through each other. We learn from sharing stories, sharing our experiences. And we hope that you guys will continue to go on this journey with us. Next week, tune in, same place, same time. We will be talking about busting busy, as Wendy says.
Busting busy.
We're busting
like,
busy.
Goodbye, busy. The word busy. Get out of here.
Yeah. So
Don't talk about that.
That's basically it. If you want to check the YouTube channel out, always available by searching When and Sign Wit. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram. You could find our Instagram handles on the copy of this video. If you're so inclined, share, give us likes, give us comments and loves. We love hearing from you guys.
What's the and sign again?
That's it.
Mr. Stamps. What is the and sign? What is the and sign called again? Amster stamps?
Ampersand.
Ampersand. I'm not going to get it.
Ampersand.
All right. Ampersand. Okay. We'll see you next
Rest of your day, guys.